Hi, I'm Diana Montford, the world's first transgender television journalist. Born male, became female. I always have to explain that. People say, what direction are you going? Like they think I'm born female going male. No. Other way around. Anyway, do you live in a small town somewhere? And do you want to come out and maybe move to one of the great cities of the US, like New York or Los Angeles or Chicago or Detroit or any number of wonderful cities? A guest of mine has done that. He's going to tell us his coming out story. And he's met with considerable success here in New York as a gay politician. And he is going to tell us how he did it. So if you want to leave behind your small town life and come to a big city and be a success, let's find out how he did it, and maybe we can learn how we can do it. Okay, my guest is Mr. Rod Townsend, who is the president of the Stonewall Democratic Club here in New York. It is a gay organization, a gay political club where people, it's about gay rights, by gay people, for gay people, and dedicated to pushing through our interests in the political realm. And Rod only got into politics just 3 years ago, and he's already the president of maybe the most important Democratic club certainly on the Eastern Seaboard and probably in the U.S. As New York goes, so goes the world. And he's going to tell us all about his early life and when he realized he was gay and coming out. And here we go.
Hey, Dana.
Hi there. So tell me, where are you from?
I'm from Evansville, Indiana. It's a town at the corner where Indiana meets Kentucky and Illinois on the Ohio River.
And it's quite a sophisticated town, even though it's a small town.
It's about 200,000 people. It had 2 universities. It had a symphony orchestra. It was a good place to grow up. We had good music and arts education, and I think I did okay for what you hear in the Midwest these days.
Okay. And now come a little closer for the camera.
Sure.
And no, this way there.
Hi.
Hi. You're going to get to know me better than you want to by
Right?
the time this is over. Anyway, so now, when did you realize you were gay? Now, you're an only child, right?
I am an only child. I had gay best friends that none of us knew we were gay, but we were all singers and we were in band and we did artistic things, we did speech, we did drama. And it turns out a lot of those people ended up gay also, but none of us were actively pursuing each other.
Right.
It was a different perspective.
Did you know you were gay?
Not really. I didn't really see anything in the media that told me this is what you are.
Didn't you get excited when you went swimming with your friends, your male friends and all?
Not really.
In the locker room, maybe?
No. For some reason that didn't really hit it for me. I was kind of more in a hurry to just get the sweat off and get into class because there was always very little time between that sweaty
Didn't you look
athletic
around
stuff.
and see?
No? Yeah, sure. I looked around. I had curiosity, but it just wasn't in my mind at the time. And I was also looking at the girls at the same way with the same curious interest. So I didn't know.
You were just curious about your fellow human beings.
Exactly. So I was either clueless or bisexual, one of the two.
Well, when did you first realize that you were gay?
Yeah, it's, my coming out story is sort of coming out to myself and then coming out to friends and then eventually coming out to family and everybody else. I would say in college, I started having an interest in the male form. So I guess I was a late bloomer. And I started looking more, but still didn't act on anything. This is also during the height of the AIDS crisis. This is the late 1980s.
Well, what year were you born?
I was born in 67.
Oh, 67.
Yes.
Ah.
So I was born in 67. I was in college from 86 to 90.
You know, your website says you were born a different year. You should change that.
Which website?
Your Google thing.
Oh, maybe there's another Rod Townsend out there or something.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, I was definitely born in 67.
Right. Well, you look great.
Okay. The part, I got lost in my own story there. But in college, I sort of had inklings, but didn't act on anything. So I was scared. I will admit, my story is a story of a coward to a
What were
large
you
degree.
afraid of?
I was afraid of getting sick.
Oh, right.
I thought that my sexuality was something that was going to be a life sentence. And I just didn't want that. And there wasn't the knowledge out there to tell me otherwise.
That you didn't need to get AIDS from being gay.
Exactly.
Excuse me, if it was the 80s, they really had, even doctors weren't sure. You know?
Yeah. And in Indiana, there wasn't the public education of where I would have learned what is safe sex.
Right.
There was no discussion of it. It was just a mystery of, if you are gay, you will catch this. And I didn't want it.
Well, who did? You know?
Of course. I mean, no disrespect to those that did have
terrible,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. But eventually, after college, I went to Atlanta, and I still had, I went from having sex with women in college to having no sex at all. I mean, just kind of entered an asexual period. But I had girlfriends in college. I was pre-engaged at one point. I don't even think about that very often. But yeah, Liz was pre-med, very successful family from Louisville, Kentucky, and she was kind of everything.
Did you tell her, was that why you broke up?
No. We broke up because she showed up at my family's house during the summer with a dog that was identical to my parents' dogs that she had just gotten, and she wanted to breed the dogs, and I just was a little freaked out by that.
I guess.
It's a strange story, and yeah, it was kind of like, this is a little bit too weird.
Okay.
I moved on. And then she ended up dating a friend of mine. That's what you did in college.
What, breed dogs?
No, you dated your friends.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, you dated your friends' exes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But anyway, so, well, when did you become sexually active?
It didn't happen until I moved to New York. I think that in a large way, moving to New York was how I came out. It was coming to New York, I felt the freedom and the anonymity at the same time. I was suddenly able to go into environments where no one knew me, and I could do anything, anywhere, and then walk away, and no one knew. I met my first boyfriend in a sex club, and I had no idea what was happening. I drank too much one night, went to a sex club, woke up in his bed the next morning, and had no idea what had happened. And was a little freaked out.
Yeah. Well, you must have been afraid of a disease.
Yeah. Well, he was HIV positive.
And you were willing to be his boyfriend.
I got to know him very quickly. He was a sweet, generous man in that he was generous with his time, and he was generous with this ridiculous me that really had no idea what he was doing.
Right. And through the grace of God, you did not contract his illness.
And by then, this was a very educated man. He had been positive for a while. He was a little bit older than me. He was a Cuban American, came over on the Mariel boat lift. He had an amazing story. His artwork still hangs in my home. But through him, I also learned a lot about HIV. I went to Beth Israel in his hospital room and stayed with him while he was sick.
Did he die?
He died afterward. He eventually said, "You need to go." I was a young, wild thing, and he was someone who was recognizing the fact that he may be approaching the end of his life.
Right.
And at the same time, I carry a piece of him in my heart forever.
Sure.
And I loved it, for sure. It was the first gay love that I had ever felt. And I remember going back to that first night, I left feeling free and emancipated.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And then I started shopping for Moschino. Wilder clothing.
There you go.
Yeah.
But, so, if someone out there is living in a small town and is afraid to come out, you are, to use a hideous phrase, straight looking, straight acting. You don't have to be out. I mean, I was never in because, come on. I mean, please. Lamppost knew I was gay. Get out of here. The desk knew I was gay. But you could very easily pass and marry and have kids, and no one would ever know.
And I'd be miserable. And
that's the way it was in our fathers and grandfathers' time.
Yeah. And the toil that would take on my heart, I don't think I would survive it. I need to be me. Mm-hmm. I need to have that freedom. And it wasn't until that I came out, I became a happier person. Mm-hmm. But even then, this was all quite a secret. None of my friends knew. Mm-hmm. My roommates didn't know.
You're quite close to your mother.
I could be closer. I wish I was closer at that time. But she is someone who called me at one point in the late 90s and said, and asked me point blank, "Are you gay? I had a dream that you were holding hands with somebody."
Oh, wow.
And it was a man. And you were walking away from me, and I was sad. And I was just like, "No, Mom."
You said you weren't gay.
I said, "Luis is just a roommate."
Luis being the man who had AIDS?
No, this is the second boyfriend.
Oh, I see.
Who was living with me.
I see.
Just a roommate in a studio apartment.
In one bed, yes.
Yeah. Mom was smarter than that.
Yes.
I did not actually come out until the early 2000s to my parents. By that point, I had a full New York family of LGBTQ people.
A chosen family.
Yeah, exactly. But it was important that I come out to my parents. It was hindering my relationship with them.
What did they say?
Well, my parents had separated by that time. My mother was in Indiana still. My father was in Florida. I was in Florida for a business trip, and I made a point of I'm going to do it. And I stood outside with him and said, "There's something I need you to know." And I told him. And the first thing he said is, "Don't tell your mother. It'll break her heart." And I told him, "I have actually made a decision. I'm going to be telling her next. And I don't think it's going to break her heart." And he and I went for a long walk around a lake, and he had actually married a woman who had a gay son, and that woman had kicked him out. And I didn't know that.
Kicked the son out.
Had kicked the son out. And my father said, "It's something I hate about her." Mm-hmm. He was very point blank honest about it. Mm-hmm. He also told me about people I had grown up with, women that used to go boating with my parents, right. And I had no idea. They were coworkers of his. They were lesbians. There were gay people in our growing up that as a child, I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. So it was always around.
And your mother, how did she react?
So after Florida, I flew home to Indiana, and we were going to go visit my grandfather. So we were in a rental car, and we were in a drive-through for Wendy's. Mm-hmm. I think I had a double bacon cheeseburger. It's back when I could eat meat and not worry about those weight gains.
Or cancer or something.
Exactly. And she asked me, "So are you dating anybody?" I was like, "Do you really want to know?" She's like, "I really do." It's like, "Mom, I'm gay. I'm living with somebody right now." And she said, "It's about fucking time." She was right. It was an absolutely easy thing to do. Mm-hmm. Because I had the love and support of my parents no matter what I did.
Yeah, I did too.
But I didn't know that until I did it.
Oh, okay.
So with that...
Don't forget, you were born in 1967.
Yeah.
Your mother's groovy.
Yeah.
If she was young enough to have a kid, then she's far out and groovy.
And I had a young mom. She was a senior in high school when she became pregnant.
Far out, as we used to say.
Yeah. This is going to be on YouTube, but don't track her down. But my aunt used to grow weed in the backyard.
Way to go.
They were fun young people.
Yeah.
And
60s people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My father died of cancer a few years later, about 6 years after I came out. Esophageal.
Oh dear.
It is basically one that once you are, it's a tough one. And it's he was already stage 3 when they found it.
Right.
And he had already had skin cancers.
From the sun, of course.
From the sun, yeah.
Because suntanning was a religion in the 60s and 70s.
And we were boaters that were on the river all the time.
Who knew?
Yeah, my dermatologist is very strict with me now.
Mine too.
Exactly. But he was living in Las Vegas, and I went to go see him with my then husband.
Your father sounds like a lot of fun living in Vegas, and
He retired and bought an RV and basically
Cool.
traveled the country. After an economic crash, he stayed in Vegas for a while working at an RV resort. He was somebody who got along naturally with other people and
great.
just kind of had a very easy demeanor that got him into fixed situations no matter where he
How
went.
about your mother?
My mother's the sweetest person on earth. She was the West Side Nut Club Fall Festival queen.
There you go.
Yeah.
So she's a knockout into the bargain.
She was always a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
All of my friends growing up would tell me how beautiful my mother was.
ML, what is that awful phrase? Mothers I'd like to, yes.
Well, we won't say that.
No, but you know what I mean.
I'm sorry, Mom. But yeah, she is one of the sweetest people that you could ever possibly meet. And throughout my entire family, like, they're all storytellers. It's something that on that trip when I finally came out, we went fishing with my grandfather, my grandmother, an uncle, my mom, an aunt, and my grandfather was just cracking jokes and telling stories the whole time. And it was at that point when I realized that, you know what, these people know me as I am now. And I was with my partner. This is another trip, actually. I was with my partner at that time. And we were all just on a boat, 5:30 in the morning, fishing for trout. And the only problem we had was that I was laughing too loud and scaring the fish away.
There you go.
Yeah. So if you are that kid in a small town, go fishing with Grandpa if you can. If you've got any sort, enjoy that family bond that you have, and use what you can. And if you have that ability, those people get to know you, and hopefully they will accept you. And I know it's harder in a small town, and it's here in New York, it's easier for me to say that. I have a bit of privilege here, and I totally recognize that. And that's why it's been important to me to help people find each other throughout the United States with my political work.
And that is, now you have written a website, you have devised a website.
I made a directory of LGBT Democratic political clubs, and I did that with the intent of helping people find each other. Creating those networks, for me it's politics. Politics has helped me find other like-minded people that I could shoot the shit with. Finding those people that you can shoot the shit with and you have a mutual interest that just isn't your identity is really helpful, and it's empowering when you can create that chosen family no matter where you are.
So your mother was, what, 17 when you were born?
Actually, she had missed a year of school, so she had just turned 19 when I was born.
Oh.
Just a few days after 19.
So she was born in 48.
She was. You're good at math.
Thanks. I was taught that by a man, not a woman, but my father was an engineer. So.
All right.
But anyway, so now, and he was from the South. He was way cool with what I was.
Yeah.
So was my mother.
That's great.
Yeah, I was lucky. So were you.
Yeah.
But now, we're lucky, but a lot of people aren't, They might have fundamentalist parents. They might have just prejudiced parents. They might have, what will the neighbors say, parents, So that's very hard.
But I think as humans, it is our nature to love one another. And some people have hang-ups where they can't love everyone.
Yeah.
Ignore those people. They have their own issues. And accept the fact you can still love them because they have their issues. And I know it's hard, accept the fact that they may not love you back because they are not capable.
Parents are people too. They have their problems and their stuff.
And that's the way we sometimes have to accept them. But finding that chosen family of your own, you'll find that love out there.
If you want to.
That love.
Not everyone considers, a relationship the ideal lifestyle. Some people prefer to live alone.
Or just the love of friendships.
Yes. But I
have a dog and a cat. I have the love of
a dog and a cat.
Yeah, man's best friend.
There you go. humankind's best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you go back and visit?
I do. It's a 13-hour drive. I put the dog in the back, and
If you start early, you'll get there by 9 o'clock at night or something.
Exactly. It's through Pennsylvania, Ohio, little dip into Louisville, Kentucky, and then into Indiana.
Yeah.
Last time I stopped in Pittsburgh on the way just to see that town.
Yeah.
It's an amazing town, actually.
Full of hills, I hear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really cool town.
Yeah. The Andy Warhol Museum is in Pittsburgh.
I went. It's amazing.
How cool is that?
And a friend of mine was the architect on it,
Oh,
strangely enough.
how thrilling.
I didn't know while I was there.
Wow.
I was marveling about it, too. I mean, he's like, I helped design it.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. But going through there, when I drive through Kentucky, when I drive through other states, I see the signs on the road, the anti-abortion signs, the religious right puts billboards on the highways. So you are bombarded with that, and I feel for that person that's seeing that in their daily life.
What's worse is when they've internalized it.
Yes.
Not just seeing it, but they think, oh, Lord, I am so dirty. Oh, save me, dear God.
You're not.
Oh, Jesus, help me.
And
make me not gay.
And if they've found the Diana Montford show, I hope they've learned that.
I hope so.
That they're not.
Many years ago, I was a counselor for trans people at the center, Gender Identity Project. And I used to hear stuff like that. People who'd just come to New York, or 50-year-old married men, they wanted to be trans, and they would, you had to keep a straight face. You couldn't start crying or anything, But it sometimes got pretty difficult,
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Well, for what?
For the work that you did. It matters.
Thank you for the work you do. Look, we're all in this together, and we're all trying to make it better. So anyway, okay, now, people out there who are LGBTQ, who maybe have a job, not a great job, just a job, maybe in a store or something, a local big box store. They're saving their money. I want to go to a big city. How would they do that?
It's hard. The economic status of the United States right now is not very friendly to moving to this big city and making it big.
Or making it at all, actually.
What you have now that is to your advantage is the internet, and making those, maybe trying to find that connection before you get here.
But
and
that
also,
can be dangerous.
And I was going to say, vetting that connection. It's interesting. I went camping in the Poconos this past summer, and I met a lot of people from rural Pennsylvania, from all over the country, really, that came to this one campground. And I met people. One of the most inspiring stories for me there was a trans man that I just thought it was a gay boy. I didn't know what he identified as.
See, that's what I mean with me. They say, which direction are you going in?
He told me, tomorrow I think I'm going to go to the pool and take my shirt off. I was just like, why? I'm sorry, I don't understand why that's. Did you have a surgery? Or he's just like, oh, and this is sitting around a campfire at 11 o'clock at night, lifts up his shirt, shows his scars. He's just like, you didn't know? I was just like, I'm just talking to a nice guy.
That's great. That makes trans people feel great.
And he's from rural New York. He's from a very small town.
Which can be quite right-wing and
exactly
unaccepting.
But he keeps moving forward. And I've friended him on Facebook, and his story inspires me every day.
It's interesting that you, who are an icon of gay liberation, could find inspiration in other gay folk,
I think people who are living a daily life, the guys that is working at Walmart, the guy that is working as a vet in a small town, their stories inspire me.
Yeah. Just any family guy who goes to work every day and brings home the money and has kids and keeps a roof over their heads.
And anybody who's from a marginalized population at this point.
At this point, most people are, since they've marginalized everyone.
Yeah, I hear you. But people who have the deeper struggles, I own the fact that some of it was easy for me.
Yeah.
And
blonde, blue-eyed, with that great name, Rod Townsend, intelligent, well-educated, male, yes. But even so, ultimately, we're all human and we all hurt.
and I hold it as a responsibility to help people who don't have those
Yeah,
what were
I know what you mean.
culturally accepted
Exactly.
in the past,
Sure.
to help them rise up.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's important. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now, if people do answer queries from on your Facebook page, questions, well, if
Yeah.
people call you or rather contact you and say, you know, well, gee, I live in a small town and I saw you on that TV show, and I think you're great, and how can I do it?
I think the best thing that I can do is help them find people in their own neighborhood.
Yeah, especially today, because as you've pointed out, economically it's very difficult here in New York.
Through politics, I have made friends throughout the United States.
That's just what I'm about to ask you.
Yeah.
Can you give the address of your website that lists all the LGBTQ Democratic clubs again?
It's stonewalldemocrats.us.
And that way you can find other like-minded LGBTQ folk who want to change the system via the law. You know, the Stonewall Rebellion was great, but if it happened today, all those people would have been shot on the spot. So that is not a possibility today. So today it has to be done through the law, the rule of law. You know, our president might ignore the rule of law, but we can't.
Through organizing, we find family.
Yeah. Or we find something. We find ourselves.
Yes.
Whatever that was. There was just a bang on the studio. Anyway, my guest has been Mr. Rod Townsend, who came from a small town in Indiana, who came to New York, found great success as an LGBTQ politician. He is president of the Stonewall Democratic Club, and even better stuff is to come, I'm sure. And I'm slightly psychic, so you should listen to me. I'm Diana Montford. This has been the Diana Montford Show. Hey, even if no one else loves you, I love you. And listen, you know, look, it's not easy to be anyone, whatever you are. You can be the football hero, the prom queen, you're still miserable. Everybody. Life sucks and then you die for everyone. So don't worry. I mean, you might hurt. We all hurt. Everyone hurts. But we also all feel joy. However miserable we are, however awful our lives are, there are always little pockets of joy in there, right?
Yes.
Anyway, I love you a lot. See you next time. Bye. Okay. Don't forget your phone in, please.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get the thing turned off the disc.